And oh wow, that was a fail. Wait. Okay. I wasn't gonna give it to Zena. I was just saying, come say hi. Girl, you just got me all dirty. Hello, friends. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hello. Nice to see your face. Hope you stick around. It is another paranormal story time. Paranormal story time. Paranormal story. Last time I was here, in this very same spot, we discussed the shape-shifting jinn, right? Hey, no fighting. I feel like I should tell you guys about how I am 1000% sure that there is an afterlife. Because so many people talk about reincarnation and all this other bullshit, and it's exactly what I just said. Boo-kaka. I don't believe in reincarnation, not one bit. If you guys have ever seen a Kendall Ray video, she's really big in the true crime community. I like her for her true crime, but her other stuff I could do without, because she does get into that like psychic talk, and she gets into the astrology and y'all already know how I feel about all that. But she's amazing when it comes to true crime cases, and for me, that was one of my obsessions for the longest time. I loved true crime. I am taking a break from making true crime videos on my channel currently, only because, I don't know, I'm pretty selective. And I just haven't found a true crime case from Egypt or pertaining to Egypt that I'm really interested in covering just yet. Let's see. Besides that though, I want to tell you guys how I know there's an afterlife. And part of the way that I know this is based off of my grandma and grandpa's love story. Their love story was so epic, you guys, that if I didn't know that it existed, then considering, you know, all of the failed marriages around me currently, I probably wouldn't believe in like love or marriage or anything like that. Ooh, that sounds so cynical. Anyways, but their love story always gave me hope. It gave me faith in humanity. I'm like, yo, it does exist. It is possible. It could happen. You just gotta find the right person. And some people are lucky enough to find them at the age of 18 years old. And that's what happened between my grandparents. It was a long time ago. I don't know. Back in Egypt, of course. It was back in Egypt, and my grandpa at the time, he was a bit older than my grandmother. I believe he was in college, and he was working as a tutor, an English tutor. I remember he did used to speak English to me growing up, and Arabic, but I mean, it was really easy to connect with him because he was able to actually speak English, and when Arabic wasn't my strongest suit, it still kind of isn't. It just made it easier for us to interact. So he was an English tutor at that time, and my grandma, she used to be a seamstress, so she used to sit there and make dresses for all of her daughters. She would tailor clothes. She was really talented. I've seen some of her dresses that she made, and they are awesome. Like, that is a skill. And the way my grandpa had seen her was walking down the street, and that is how every love story begins in Egypt, is admiring a beautiful girl from afar, because she's unattainable. She's usually around brothers, protected by fathers, uncles, cousins even, and you have to fight just to get near her. But my grandpa managed to get close enough to his love interest, and that was because I don't know how he finessed this or how he actually came into contact with her first, but you know, in Egypt when you guys are neighbors, everybody knows everybody. Everybody has to go outside of their house to go get food. Everybody has to go grocery shopping on the street. They call it shara, which literally translates to the street, but it's usually referencing the market. So the market street where everybody's, you know, like in Aladdin where they have all their little shops set up, that's literally how it looks. He managed to get close to her. He managed to become her English tutor, and they started to flirt here and there, but like the very smallest things, like accidentally touching her hand. Oh my god. But like it would be stuff like that, like, oh, I'm so sorry, did you feel those sparks? So cute. Which I know for Americans, you guys are like, really? They're getting excited over touching a girl's hand? Yeah, that's literally how it is over there. They get excited off of the smallest touches because they're so deprived. And it just slowly started turning into a love interest. And the way he expressed his love to her one day was that he wrote on a little piece of paper on the corner of her paper that they were working on, the words "I love you" in English. Now, if he was any good of a tutor, she would be able to decipher the code, right? She would get the message. And so she did, because my grandpa was, come on now, awesome. After he confessed his undying love for her by writing on the corners of the page, "I love you," in English, a code that she has yet still mastered. Okay, what is wrong with me? I don't know. He soon after that asked for my grandmother's hand in marriage. Now, after this, they got married. I forget what my grandpa did, but my grandma, she continued to be a seamstress. She would, you know, make clothing, fix clothes for others, I think. I don't know. It's not really relevant to the story either way. The point is that soon after that, they had 5 children. Yeah, 5. So it was 2 boys, 1 at each bookend, so an eldest and the youngest, and the 3 girls in the middle, with my mother being the oldest girl. And so, anyways, my mother eventually got married to my dad, and they migrated here to America, and then they had me. But back home still remained the 4 other siblings. Then came the year of where my grandfather passed away, and I believe I told you guys a little bit about that in the Dream Demons and Dead Grandpa Paranormal Storytime. So that one was about the same grandpa. And I told you guys a little bit about his character in that video. You know, the fact that he was such a good man, he was such a pacifist, he was so religious, and all that I remember him doing ever was just his sipha, which is, you know, the beads. I forget what the word is in English for them. Rosaries? I think that's what Latinos call them. A rosary bead. It's called a sipha in Arabic. But my grandpa was a very, very religious man. He was highly respected within his community. Again, he was the pacifist. He was the man that, he had a lot of morality. He was very trustworthy. A lot of people would go to him whenever they needed help or guidance for anything. So when he passed away, it was heartbreaking. I was here in America. I did not attend his funeral, but I did hear from my mother, who also didn't attend because she was also here, through everyone there, what went on at his funeral. And they stated that they were able to see, some of his friends were able to see his spirit, because when you die, your spirit actually stays with the body. It's traveling with the body. So for instance, my other grandpa on my father's side, when he passed away here, he didn't want to go and be buried right away. So he ended up getting lost. Like, the driver of the car went the longest route possible to get to the gravesite. And it just happened to be like that. And the reason being is because that person did not want to be buried right away. He still was trying to prolong it, procrastinate, like, no, I don't want to go yet. So the spirit stays with the body. And when you reach a certain spiritual level and you become, detached from, it's just like the last Avatar. You know how he had to give up the worldly possessions and materialism and all of that stuff, to unlock all the different chakras? Well, I mean, there is some truth to that. You do have to give up materialistic things. You have to ground yourself and humble yourself. And when you dedicate your life to just sit there and pray to God and talk to God all day, to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's beautiful. And you start to build this relationship that you just start to build a really, really strong relationship. A lot of my mother's side of the family, they're part of the group called El Tariqa, and El Tariqa just literally translates to the way, and the way is based off of, I believe, Sayyidina Ibrahim, or is it's one of the important prophets who figured out that if you do a certain amount of du'as per day, it should absolve you of any type of sin that you've ever done in life. And it'll protect you. So it'll build up your spiritual energy around you. You won't be able to be attacked by jinns or by, people who do sorcery and witchcraft and all of that stuff. Like, all of their little spells won't even affect you because you built up your army of angels around you that nobody could touch you after that. So when you do enough du'as like that, you have so many angels and guardian angels standing around you. We already have, as human beings, 4 each dedicated to all of us. We all know about the 2 angels that sit on each shoulder, right? That take account everything that you do, the good and the bad, because those are depicted throughout cartoons, of course. But usually they show like a devil and an angel, but those angels are unbiased. So those 2 angels, the one that write the good and bad, they are unbiased parties. They don't sit there and judge you. They literally just take into account everything that you do. So I believe they're called the recording angels. So that's their job. They sit there and record what you do. So and then you have 2 other angels. One always in front of you and one behind you. With that, you are born attached and chained to your own personal jinn. And this personal jinn's main goal in life, in order for him to ascend within his community, has to bring you down. So they're the ones that when you meet an individual and you just automatically don't like them, or they don't like you, that's because they're the jinns, your jinn and their jinn. Well, they're sitting here communicating and talking, and they're conspiring against you. So the jinn will ask, like, let's say if I met somebody, my jinn would ask the other person's jinn, how strong is this person? What are their weaknesses? And the jinn will disclose all of this to each other. They communicate. Anyways, but when you do enough du'as, all of this, it makes it very, very difficult for jinns to communicate. The jinn that's attached to you is like this big. It can't even do anything against you because its quote unquote hands are tied. Because I don't know if jinns have hands, they're balls of energy. But basically you're untouchable. And so, part of the reason why my grandfather, when he passed away, he was able to come visit me in the dream is because he put in all that time and effort here on earth when he was alive, praying and making dua to Allah. So, when he passed away, I remember around the time when he did pass away, he was actually asking to leave. He wanted to leave this earth. He did not like how society, the way society was moving. And anybody that's still here can understand why, clearly, if you are woke at all, especially if you're here in America, like, you see everything just unfolding slowly. When he passed away, everybody at his ceremony, not everybody, but the ones that were also part of this group, the tariqah, the ones that were on top of their du'as, the ones that were doing their prayers every day, the ones that were helping others, doing sadaqah and which is charity and everything like that, fasting. Oh, they were gifted by the sight of seeing their friend in spiritual form that day. So my grandfather, so many people said that they seen him there, that he was wearing all white, that he looked happy, he was extremely excited to go and be buried. And for some people it's like that. There's no fear there. Because when you are a believer of Allah, when you're a believer of God, the angel of death looks completely different to you. When the funeral was relayed back to my mother, because she's talking to everybody back home and she's inquiring and she's asking, how did everything go? How was everything? Who showed up? Etc., etc. And they're explaining to her that I seen your father. He looked extremely happy. He was excited to go to his grave. That she became, it relieves a person, if you knew undoubtedly that the person that just passed away is extremely happy, wouldn't that just make you feel at peace automatically? My grandmother, though, she remained alive for several years after this. But she became, really, really weak. She had to be taken care of. She wasn't able to do anything on her own. She was constantly in a wheelchair, etc., etc. But she was one of those mothers that was extremely attached to her children and grandchildren that she just didn't want to leave. And I remember my grandmother would tell us all that she would have these dreams of my grandfather begging her to come with him. So he would show up to her dreams and tell her, like, come on, I miss you, come with me, come to me. And she's telling him, like, no, it's not my time. And girl, it was your time. You just wanted to stick around and hang out because she couldn't get the umbilical cord even after the age of 80. So anyways, my grandpa was harassing her. He's like, hurry up, just die already so you could be with me. God, that's kind of harsh, but that's pretty much what he was telling her in the dreams. When that day finally came and my grandmother finally passed away about, a year or two ago, wasn't even that long ago. So let me tell you guys about her burial ceremony, because her burial ceremony was just as amazing as my grandfather's. So many people showed up to, say their condolences and goodbye to their dear friend and my family back home. So when my grandmother passed, that same night, one of my grandfather's oldest friends had a dream of her, and he never knew my grandmother like this, which was very common. So it's very common for men to be friends back in Egypt and then they have no idea about the wife, because I don't know, it's just how it is. Men stick with men and women stick with women. They don't really have to sit there and have a conversation. It's not like Americans where it's like, oh, we're all at a dinner party. It's like, no, they still have the women's room and the men's room. So everything is very separated. This individual had a dream of my grandmother, a person that he had never met in his life. And he stated that she was dressed in old white, and she came about this room, and it was a party. It was a party just for her, and it was all of her eldest friends. So all of the women that she was friends with in the past that have already passed away were all there. And my mother was very, very close with her mother, and she didn't want to enter the room without my mother being present. So she refused to go in, and she was asking for my mother by name. When they finally told her, like, okay, here, she's coming, she finally went in, and it was this huge party. My grandfather was there waiting for her. He was so happy and excited to see her. He woke up, and he figured out that this was a dream, but then he got a call, and that call stated that so-and-so had just passed away, which was my grandmother. And he was convinced that this was the same woman that was just in his dream. And he was convinced that he was able to actually see her transition from from this life to the next. And he described it as the most beautiful scene. It was a party. It was full of laughter and smiles. And I'm getting goosebumps. You can't tell because I have this jacket on, but I'm getting goosebumps. Leave it. So the funeral happens, everyone comes out and shows their condolences, and they bury my grandmother. And soon after that, I don't know if it was the same man, but a different man, but another individual who's also close with my grandfather, who's part of this tariqah group, who was very spiritual within himself. He started to fall off on his prayers. He started to fall off on making his du'as. And eventually, he just started hanging out at the cafe, smoking shisha, which is a hookah for the Americans out there. The hookah. It's a shisha in Arabic. And, just totally disregarding his responsibilities, etc. Stop. Hey. Stop. Stop it. Zena, leave it. Yeah, leave it. He started disregarding all of his responsibilities, pretty much. He started getting depressed. He was super sad that he lost, two of his best friend, my grandfather. And when you die, guess what, you guys? You think you just die and you just, float around bothering people? No, everybody is given a job after death. So after you die, depending on how well you did here on earth, you're given a station. And my grandfather was one of the individuals who was assigned to El Surat al Fatha, which is the that's what it's called. It's a verse in the Quran that is probably the most recited verse that people recite. So every time somebody would start to recite the verse or pray, angels appear and they help you, and they sit there and help you recite with you, right? And he was one of those individuals who was assigned to that verse. So every time somebody would start praying and saying the Fatiha, he would appear and start praying with them, to strengthen their prayer. He then decided, my grandfather from the dead decided, okay, well, since this guy is running from his responsibilities, he's letting the devil play with his head, we're losing a good brother to the fight of the shaitan. Let me get into contact with this guy. So what did he do? What? You guys think that he just went straight to the guy in his dreams? Like, no, come on now, that would be so obvious. So he went to his wife's dream. His wife, again, did not know my grandfather, because, again, men and women just didn't mingle like that. And so he went straight to his wife's dream. And in his dream, he literally just appeared and told this woman, tell so-and-so, so he named her husband, that and then he stated his full name, said to stop messing around and to get back to his, to his prayers. He needs to start praying again. And after she woke up from this dream, she was confused, she remembered it vividly. She remembered my grandfather's face to the detail, and she starts to tell her husband about this crazy dream that she just had. And she was telling him, like, I don't know who this person is. And then she told him his name, and he was like, what? He's dead. How did he, what? And he's like, are you sure? So he goes and gets a photo of my grandfather, and he shows it to her, and she's like, yeah, that's the guy that was in my dream. He's the one who was telling me to tell you to stop doing what you're doing and get back to doing what you're supposed to do. Anyways, so soon after this, he's just like, what the heck? And he stops going to the cafe. He stops, smoking his shisha. He goes back to praying. He goes back he goes back to doing his du'ats. And anyways, and that's just how I know that there's an afterlife. And of course, this is all circumstantial evidence, and this is why I'm stating this is how I know that there is an afterlife and that everybody has a job after death. And this is the reason why I do not believe in reincarnation at all. But again, that's all my opinion, my reasons, and you guys are entitled to believe whatever you want to believe. But yeah, that is the epic love story of my grandma and grandpa. Yep, he harassed her after death to come with him. I can't wait to find a love like that. If you guys enjoyed this paranormal story time, then you again probably should consider subscribing, because all of my paranormal story times are true stories, and they're usually a true story within my family. So thanks for getting this far in the video. Hit the like button, subscribe, share this video if you want to, I guess, and I will see you guys all. Oh wait, I forgot to tell you. Hello, stay kind, spread love, spread knowledge, and I'll see you guys all in my next video. Duh. Okay. Alright, bye friends.